Hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going over essentially every Havoc modifier that's ever existed in Havoc, which I feel a lot of the community has wanted slash needed, because honestly Havoc modifiers are pretty annoying and difficult. I would also like to say that thanks to Combine00, his Steam guide on every modifier's numerical values, which has been very useful in my testing. So yeah, I'm going to pin it in the comments, you can check it out if you need to. So, starting off with probably the worst one, Rotten Armour. Rotten Armour, as we know, affects it's called Crushers, Maulers, and Scab Rages. These guys will gain a scaling debuff, where the more HP they have, the more damage resistance they have, and that decreases as their HP does. I believe in 25% intervals. As you can see, 444 into the 800s, and now we're at 1500, and now 2000. So yeah, that's like the basics of them. They just take more damage as they lose HP, and this affects both melee and ranged. And when I say ranged, I mean actual range damage and actual melee damage. This does not affect damage over time effects, which brings me to how you would actually deal with them. So essentially, let's just mimic an actual horde of them. Let's get some maulers and some rages. There. So all these guys will obviously be chasing you, and so what you want to do is just use your damage over time effects to kill them, essentially. Because, oh, okay, ignore that. Damage over time ignores the damage reduction from these guys. Ignore all this damage I'm taking. Obviously, you'd have a full team. When it comes to the actual crusher portion, that's where you'd have multiple teammates, of course, who would be frontlining, protecting your Psyker, your Flamer, whoever it is who's meant to deal with these guys. Well, you could melee them down, but that's obviously pretty slow. As you can see, as their HP reduces, they're starting to take a lot more damage. You can actually kill them. Ignore that overhead. This isn't a perfect test, obviously, because I have no teammates. But yeah. As you saw at the beginning, the flames just took down like a majority of the horde, besides obviously the crushers, and then I just melee the crushers to death. So again, as you saw, the main thing you want to use is Penetrating Flame on a Flamer. This thing is super good. Any form of brittleness really that can apply to an entire horde. You could also use Penetrating Flames on Psyker if you wanted, but honestly regular flame stuff just works too, because you're mainly just killing the small guys. Alongside that, obviously you want Uncanny, because these guys are all, what's it called? Carapace. It's not infested like it claims. So yeah, flame them, taunt, keep them at bay while your flame guys kill them. Yeah, DOTs are the way to kill them, essentially. Yeah, so we got Hive Scum's Needle Pistol, that would work really well too. Not as well, but still works really good. They do leave a little rot cloud if you couldn't see. Let's just kill this guy. They spawn a little cloud of rot that just like continuously ticks at your HP. It's really not a big threat, like the radius is extremely small and it dissipates very quickly. So it isn't really a problem as long as you don't just walk into a horde of already dead rotten armor. Yeah. You also have to make sure you keep backing up when you're facing rotten armor, as you saw what I was doing, because you cannot like just stand and fight them because they are all overhead enemies besides the rages who have really high DPS. Obviously you'd have something like a Taunt Ogrin, RBT Shock Mine is a super good counter for them in fact. But something like that can just hold them in place while your team, like the Flamer, Flame Staff, etc., Needle Pistol, deals with them. Yeah, just make sure you back up really. You cannot stand and fight them. Make sure you have space to kite, stuff like that. On to the next thing, which you probably saw on some of the enemies, is Blight Spreads. If I can get an enemy with it. There, okay. So Blight Spreads, it infects one enemy, and this enemy, once it dies, will explode, leaving a trail on the floor of goo, and it also infects nearby enemies, as you can see. And this goo will corrupt you when you stand in it. If I'm not immortal, there. As you can see, it just corrupts me. And I already have the counter for it in my build, which would be Beacon of Purity. This is one of the main counters with it. Because again, you can see my corruption is going down, because that's how Beacon of Purity works. What this basically does for you is creates like a barrier, I guess, so that in subsequent times that you come across Blight, like this, you can step in it essentially freely for that. It's a good portion of your health bar. Unless you don't purposely stand in it, it's just a safety gate. You won't prevent it, it will just help you not get, like, actually lose your health. You only lose, like, a small portion, and then you can just maintain that small portion. So yeah, Blight Spread really easy to deal with too, just don't run in it. You can also use Hive Scum, which I'll swap onto now. Okay, now that we're on Hive Scum, you can swap onto the Stim Crate. It's right here. So the Stim Crate will actually prevent and heal corruption. So if we just, again, spawn some guys. Let's get some of this done. So yeah, let's take a bit of corruption damage. We place it. Begins to heal it, and you're also immune to it. So you can just stand in it as much as you need with the duration. Which honestly makes it, in my opinion, the best counter to Blight Spreads, because you can just walk in it. You don't have to, obviously... Okay, now none of them are spawning. You obviously don't have to ignore it, or like, you know, create that safety barrier. You can literally just walk in it, as long as you have it up, obviously. And if you build it right, you will have this up very consistently, almost 100% uptime. I'd say like, you know, like 60% uptime, something like that. Yeah, it just gives you 15 seconds of immunity. It is super useful for your melee characters who are frontlining, of course, because they can just stand in it. Okay, that's Blight Spread. Now back on Zealot, I'll show off red and orange enemies. Starting off with red enemies, of course. Because they're actually in rotation still. Where are they? Ooh, where is it? I'm in the wrong section. Okay, so let's go to something like a bulwark. Oh, you can see the rampaging on them. Just ignore that for now. There. Now he's red. And red enemies can't be stunned. Whether by chorus, shout, etc. They're just immune to stagger. Which makes them really annoying. It's not really something you counter, it's more so something you acknowledge and just like, you know, understand you have to be careful about it. All you can do is not leave enemies to live, like, there's like 3 enemies and then one of them is red like that. You don't just like attack them one at a time, you'd probably want to... Well, with shotgun it wouldn't matter, but most of the time with red you want to finish off the enemy that's red. This is especially the case against ranged enemies like gunners. You don't want to just hit him once and then ignore him, because he's just going to tear right through your health and he will never be staggered until he's dead. He's attacking me now. If I chorus, it doesn't matter. He's just going to still shoot me and actually go right through my health. So yeah, you want these guys dead. Hey, teammates out there, please kill red gunners. Don't let them live. Again, this is also an issue on Reapers. Especially an issue on Reapers. Because a red Reaper is terrifying. You guys would go right through your health, even with chorus like that. But yeah. Please don't leave Reapers or Gunners alive when they're red. With melee enemies, it's honestly not that big of an issue. Obviously, you can't like shock mine and chorus them. But they're melee enemies, just dodge. I guess they just dodge, but like, just remember that they're red, so they can't be staggered. It's really just a mental blockade. You just have to understand they can't be staggered and try not to get to situations where you're cornered, you need a chorus out, and you end up making the enemies red. Because then obviously you can't leave. Yeah, that's red. I guess I can also show off how it would look on bosses, which is mainly on the captains. Captains are the main issue with red, at least when it comes to bosses. If I don't die. Just turn my invulnerability so I can kill this guy. So essentially with captains, you'll see here once I break his shield, I'm just getting destroyed. Once you break through that shield, they'll get staggered like that. However, ignore that. However, once you bring them to half HP, let's see with this. That was too much damage. I'll just cut to when I actually get them red. Okay, there, now he's red. You will see that once I break his shield. Let me just swap back to my other build. Yeah, we can show it with chorus too. Yeah, you see, he's like, get staggered, he ignores it. And then once we break through his shield, and he'll continue to just attack like normal. Essentially just, obviously, ignoring stun, like red suggests. Let's see, continues his animation. Very scary on sword captains especially. Yeah, that's red. Be careful of captains and the gunners mainly. And now we move on to orange. This is a debuff, well, a buff to the enemies that makes them more resistant to damage, percentage based. It's 50% on basically every enemy, 10% on captains, 15% on monstrosities, 25% on elites, and 30% on specials. So if you just want to see it, they get their buff when they die. And when an enemy dies, it gives the buff to enemies in a radius. What's meant to happen is that it would spread the effect to other enemies once they die. Like that, there we go. So as you can see, we have an orange enemy in there. We kill this guy. He spreads it to the other enemies. This is just damage reduction, so it's not that big of an issue. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, just something to acknowledge exists. This is also guaranteed on bosses, monstrosities I mean. So you can see orange, and technically it's orange, it just doesn't show the debuff. It's only 15% on monstrosities though, so again, orange, not a big deal, it's very minuscule. Not something you have to focus on. Moving on to rituals, if I can find them. Rituals are obviously empowered demon hosts that have a spawn in like this. And essentially these cultists account to the timer, I can see at the top. As you get close to them, actually, let me just explain it. So as you saw at the timer up top, that will tick very slowly at first when you're far away and first trigger it. And once you damage these guys or get within a certain radius of, I believe, like, what, 10 meters, it'll start to go fast like this. And each one of these cultists contributes 1/8 of the speed. So each time you kill one, the speed of it goes down by 1/8. You can see it's ticking slower now. And as we get down to 1, it'll go down super slowly now. I can kill this guy. Yeah, now we can just see the time it takes to do even one tick, and it's like super long. As you can see. The best ways to deal with this is obviously just, you know, killing it with your team, like this. Killing each cultist individually, with whatever weapons you have. Or having some way to AoE it down. One way you can do it that for free, essentially, is like Zealot's Flamer, or Psyker's Flame, Needle Pistol even. Or you can use blitzes, such as Boomringer, which can just one-shot a ritual if you aim for the middle, even at super far away. One shot still. Or the Chem Grenade, or Immolation Grenade. Frag Bomb technically can, I believe. Chem Grenade requires a bit more precision, because it has a very small radius. I think it didn't get this one. Yeah, they didn't get three of them. So yeah, Chem Grenade isn't the most accurate when it comes to this, but it works in clearing most of them out. We'll see something like Rumbler, anything with AoE or to snipe it in a way. Boomerang is probably the best for Hive Scum though, and honestly the best out of anything really, because it's like very consistent. You just shoot the middle, they all die. Yeah, that's rituals. You just need to learn the locations by heart, to be honest, with experience. So just like, you know, play Havocs, learn where they actually trigger, and then learn to avoid those triggers until you're ready. And also don't shoot them, because that'll make it go fast. Yeah, that's rituals. Now we're going to move on to the next two, which will be Stimms and whatever it is. Now on to purple. So purple enemies will just heal enemies nearby. You see here. There, they heal. Very complicated, I know. Just heals enemies in a radius, essentially, near the enemy. And obviously what you want to do is kill the purple enemy, so that once he's dead, you can actually damage them, and they die. Main issue with this, they're probably hiding in a pack of armor or other enemies like this. Another main issue, what's called bulwarks, can also get it. So what do? You use the flame. The two best ways would obviously be damage over time effects and one-shots. Here the flamer, a damage over time effect. You let this kill the purple enemies, and once those purple enemies start to die, everything else will already have max flame stacks, and then they will start to die almost immediately after. Issue is obviously flaming all those enemies in the first place. If I can find that final enemy. Yeah, you can already see the pain of them. But now that they're all dead, all these guys already have max flame stacks, and they will start to die really quickly afterwards. Like that. The best way would be something like one shot, such as crack grenades, boombringer. That's basically it. Those are the only two consistent ways, boombringer and cracks. Cracks would be best because, you know, you have infinite of them. Meanwhile, the boombringer is limited, but very, very powerful. Yeah, that's them. The way to counter them is, yeah, you know, damage over time, one shots. But you also just need to constantly be moving backwards, same with rotten armor. Because this is a war of attrition, and you aren't winning. You need to back up. And once they die, you make progress as fast as you can. You know, it's really similar to rotten armor in the way that they're just super tanky, essentially. Another way this is also really annoying is something like captains, if I can show that off. Captains and demon hosts are the only two bosses that can spawn with the purple. There you go. Captain, he has purple. Bosses like this can't get purple. But as you can see, he heals the boss. Not as fast as other enemies, but he does heal the boss. This can make it really annoying if your team is splitting aggro or something, because then that captain, that chaos spawn will just heal to full HP, as you can see. So what you want to do in these types of situations is just focus one down. You need to make sure your team is focusing at least one of these guys, not splitting their aggro, because as you can see, he's already full. Now, what I would usually do is focus the monstrosity, because they're really easy to kill. Your whole team is obviously attacking them. Captains aren't that scary of a threat, especially since they have so many phases. So if you have a way to just melt a boss like this, then you should 100%. However, if you have something like, I don't know, what I'm doing right now, a solo zealot, then you definitely want to focus the captain, because it would take way too long to kill that chaos spawn in comparison to the captain. Obviously, though, if you're a full team, you can kill this chaos spawn extremely quick. What else? That's basically it with purple, honestly. Very annoying modifier, but it's honestly more of a personal player issue. Is it really the game's fault? Not really. Players just have to understand, you know, targeting and prioritizing different targets. Yeah, just prioritize the purples, please. You cannot kill the others. Yeah, that's purples. Now we move on to stims. Show that with elites. Let's get some of these guys. So there are 4 types of stims. There is red, green, blue, and yellow. This guy doesn't have any. I'm just going to spawn a few. There, red stim. So let's talk about red stim first. So here you can see red stim. These guys are very resistant to stuns, not entirely immune though. As you can see, they also attack faster, which essentially means more damage. Another red one, just a lot more immune to stuns. Well, not entirely. Here is a green. No, that's a yellow. Yellow enemies take, what's it called, 4 times the weak spot damage. Oh, the blue's nice. Let's kill this guy first. Yeah, I'll go over blues first. Blues have a 60% damage resistance. Here you can see already, I'm doing a lot less damage to him. That's the main thing about blue, they're just damage resistant. Let's spawn some more and try to get some others. I want to get green and yellow. That's red. Please. Oh, that's a lot of purples. And that was 3 blues. There's a yellow, and there's a green. Nice. Okay, let's kill these purples real quick. So essentially what green is a bunch of overhealth. As you will see. Overhealth, and they are a lot more resistant to, what's it called? Damage over times. I think it's 50%. Greens aren't very scary. And then yellows makes them attack faster, and they take a lot more weak spot damage. You move on to gun type enemies. Let's just spawn a regular gunner. That is not what I want to spawn. There, okay. We're gonna these guys. Right, let's get a lot of these guys so that one of them gets it. That's blue. That's red. That's blue. None of these guys want a stim. I gotta hurry up and just use a yellow stim. There we go, nice. Yellow stim, right there. Let's kill these blue stim guys first. And you can already see that tank here. Takes 2 shots. But yeah, here's a yellow stim. These guys will take more headshot damage, but they also have extremely long bursts, as you can tell. They basically are just minigunners, the way they just constantly shoot their shots like that. They have 5 times the bullets, I believe. And they also sometimes bug like that, where they just don't really lock onto you once you dodge. I mean, it's pretty funny. Sometimes they will obviously track you, though. Just treat them like gunners, really, because they are basically gunners. Very dangerous. There isn't much counterplay to them. They are essentially just buffed up enemies, and most of them don't do anything that substantial. So yeah, there isn't much to talk about with stims. They're just scarier enemies, but not that much scarier. Yeah, that stims are really easy to deal with, honestly. Now we'll move on to the final few. Now on to the last 2, starting with Pus-hardened. So enemies will just spawn like this. They have like this layer of like goop around them. And this makes them take 50% less range damage. So my knife here is range damage, and it does a lot less damage, as you can tell. It takes 5 knives to kill them. And now if you just get another one. However, your melee damage on them remains the exact same, as you can see. So yeah, the counter to these guys is melee, or damage over times, because damage over time doesn't count as ranged. Remember, Pus-hardened is literally only ranged attacks. So yeah, DOT is like this. I can find one. We'll call them all the same. There, look, see? They're all the same. Very nice. Melee, DOT. That's how you kill Pus. Simple. Just don't use ranged attacks on them. And if you do, then prepare to take double the time. And now, on to... if I can find a gunner. Cranial. This one is very similar to Final Toll. It essentially makes them suppression immune, not stun. Which means... we spawn... a gunner. Gunner. Maybe one day. Perhaps one day. Nope. Okay, let's just spawn a Reaper and a Cultist Gunner. Surely one of these will have it. There we go. Okay. So we let them all shoot. We chorus. And if we see, the Cranial is still attacking. Same with the Cranial Reaper. Very scary thing with these guys is that they actually tear right through your toughness like that. Your health, I mean. Yeah, that's the scary part about Cranial. They're immune to suppression from Chorus. That's about it with them. Very similar to Red, in a way. However, you can actually shout with Vet, and that will stun them. Because it's not suppression, it's a true stagger. You know, these guys are only stagger suppression immune. Yeah, that's that. Honestly, a very easy modifier once again. The main threats of Havoc are just like Rotten, Blight in a way, Purple, Rituals. Those are like the main ones. The rest are pretty easy to deal with. They're just like side modifiers that don't do much. But yeah, that's basically it for this video. It was all over the place, honestly, but I hope it taught you guys what they do and how you deal with them, at least somewhat. And you know what they do going into your games. So yeah, that's about it for this video, and I hope you have a good day.